I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for the Life in the UK test part 123, a global power part 2, while doing a leg stretching, and if you participate in the leg stretching, that is at your own risk. So let's start. We are bringing the first exercise, one leg in front, with the heel onto the ground, and we're pulling the toes towards us, and that stretches the leg, and we're also contracting from time to time the quad muscles. So we're starting with contraction of quad muscles. And we're going just through the questions at the end of the chapter, Global Power. And the first one that we already had, now the second one. And release of contraction. When and why Scotland joined England and Wales to become Great Britain? Well, that happened in 1801, or with the reform of 1800, and we're contracting again the quad muscle. It was the reform of 1800 and it came into effect in 1801. And why? Because, actually I don't know. It was the uncertainty, but it was 17 and this was 77. Let's look what I mixed up. So it was Ireland 1800, that was it. So it was 17.7. And release contraction. It was the Act of Union, that was in 17.7, and it was because Queen Anne had no surviving children, and there was unclearness about the succession. However, that helped, because of the Queen Anne, just her closest relative became, and contract again, her closest relative, George I, became. Okay, so how did that help? So why? This created uncertainty. So William and Mary's successor, Queen Anne, had no surviving children. This created uncertainty over the succession in England, Wales and Ireland and in Scotland. The Act of Union, known as the Treaty of Union in Scotland, was therefore agreed in 1707, creating the Kingdom of Great Britain. When and why Scotland joined England, Wales to become Great Britain? And the other thing was the Act of... What was that? That was the Act of Union, and release the contraction for last time. That was the Act of Union, and the other thing... That was by the Union flag. And contracted last time, what was it? Act of Union. Also Act of Union. So two Act of Unions, both. Same name. Act of Union win for Ireland, 1801. So 17.7, Act of Union or Treaty of Union in Scotland. Releasing the leg stretch. And the other one. The other leg with the heel onto the ground, and we're pulling the toes towards us. And we're contracting upwards. So both are named Act of Union. One was 1707 and one 1800. 1707, Scotland came because Queen Anne had no surviving children, and the other one was in 1800 or 1801, and where Ireland joined. The reason for a rebellion in Scotland led by Bonnie Prince Charlie. I want to go to that point. Bonnie Prince Charlie, or his actual name, and or his other name is Edward Charles Stewart. He was a steward and still contracting. And many people in Scotland, the Scottish clans, wanted to have, and release of contraction, a steward on the throne. George I was not, and George II also not. And they wanted, instead of George II, rather Bonnie Prince Charlie. So Bonnie Prince Charlie, the reasons for the rebellion, landed in Scotland. There was a rebellion, but we were defeated by George II's army. Let's read what I had said here. Contract again. In 1745, we never really remember the date, and release of contraction. In 1745, there was another attempt to put a Stuart king back on the throne in place of George I's son, George II. And contract again. Charles Edward Stuart, Bonnie Prince Charlie. They had that in brackets, and here they are referring just to the name tag. Normally, things which are written in brackets are not so much to remember. It's a nickname, so we're referring to him by the nickname. So, Charles Edward Stuart, or Bonnie Prince Charlie, release of contraction, the grandson of James II, landed in Scotland. He was supported by clansmen from the Scottish Highland and raised an army. Contract again, the last time. Charles initially had some success, but was defeated by George II's army at the Battle of Culloden in 1746. Yes, we should remember all the battles when we have that point. Just Battle of Culloden in 1746. It was the army of Bonnie Prince Charlie against Charles II. It's pretty easy to know who is Bonnie Prince Charlie and what did he want, and who was George II and what did he want. And that was that exercise. And now we're going to bring one leg to the outside, and we're having the toes pointing forward, and we're stretching the leg just into the ground. The anchor change stability test. Just press the leg a bit into the ground. The ideas of the Enlightenment. I noticed that I'm pronouncing it wrong and writing it also wrong. It's enlightenment, not enlightenment. It's an enlightenment. Enlightenment. But maybe it's different pronounced. So the ideas of the Enlightenment. What we were told does not fit perfectly with what is asked for, I think. I'm going to read it in a moment. So we were told that, I think it was Adam Smith, and really so stretch a bit. Adam Smith had ideas to the economic, how it could be made, and David Hume had ideas to the human nature, and it was not William Bowles, but it's a poet, and it was someone else who had ideas to something else. So the ideas from the Enlightenment, it wasn't explained to us that good. I think ideas from the Enlightenment is basically that humans are intelligent. That is the basic idea of the Enlightenment. Let's look what they told us. And one more time. We are pressing the leg one last time a bit into the ground. During the 18th century, new ideas about politics, philosophy, and science were developed, but this is not the answer. The ideas of the Enlightenment does not ask what ideas about, so not what the ideas are. New ideas is not the answer. This is often called the Enlightenment, that is not the answer. Many of the great thinkers of the Enlightenment were Scottish, that is not the answer. Adam Smith developed ideas about economics, which are still referred today. That would be a partial answer. Let's look exactly at it. The ideas of the Enlightenment, now it's not an idea, but we could form it to an idea. Pressing again the leg into the ground. We can answer the question, the ideas of the Enlightenment with Adam Smith developed ideas about economics. This is not an idea, but it is at least something. New ideas about economics. Develop ideas about economics. Ideas of the Enlightenment, ideas of economics. We're at least saying that in the branch of economics, new ideas happened. That is not really the question answered, which I still refer to today. David Hume's idea about human nature continue to influence philosophy. The ideas of the Enlightenment, where we're thinking about human nature, and that's not really, it does not fit really, and it is not in an absolute way the answer. Release the stretch a bit. Ideas about human nature. The ideas of the Enlightenment. Well, ideas about economics, new development of economics, and of human nature. That is very broad, very broad. That is not the answer to the question, and we even have to formulate it around to make it fit. And it was James Watt's. James Watt's work, scientific discoveries such as James Watt's work on the steam power, helped the progress of Industrial Revolution. This is not really part of the Enlightenment. Let's go. Maybe we have it here, and we have the final answer. One of the most important principles of the Enlightenment was everybody should have the right to their own political and religious belief. Yes, what I said, that people are intelligent and that they can think for themselves. And we're going to the next exercise, and we are having basically the question answered. So I'm going through it, and then I'm going to correct. Yes, the hydraulic card rig. We're bringing the leg up, and again down, and again up, and down. So the hydraulic card rig, that is the exercise. I don't know what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say is the ideas of the Enlightenment. We have it here. The most important principles of the Enlightenment was that everyone should have the right to their own political and religious belief. That is the question we're asking for. And there we have the answer. Is that a proper answer? The ideas of the Enlightenment, that everyone should have the right to their own political and religious belief. And that the state should not try to dictate to them. I wasn't really able to explain it, and I'm still not. But The state can't dictate the people their political opinions or religious beliefs. Let's take just the first part, but take what we have changed. But they can be doing the same again. The ideas of the Enlightenment. Okay. But everyone should have their own political and religious belief, and that the state should not dictate to them. Okay, they have given the full, complete answer. The importance of the Industrial Revolution and development of industry. This is a big question. The importance of the Industrial Revolution, but this is not what did happen, sondern what is important about it. I think we just have taken any word in the question, if you're asking important or what happened or what was it or anything, without thinking about that slight difference what you asked makes a major difference what the answer would be. And that was the carjack. And we're doing now the 1990 stretch. Into 1990 position with the legs, and we are just going in front. The importance of the Industrial Revolution. Okay, the development of industry is easier. The steam engine was developed. They had it just by James Watt. And in a way we could have split the chapter. These are two subjects at least. Do we have one? Development of industry. Yes, but people were not working in cottage industry anymore. And but the people were not so much the importance of Industrial Revolution. How broad, how big do we want to talk as if it goes into the British Empire? And when we couldn't talk also about Ireland, but most people were farmers. So in the United Kingdom, England, the Industrial Revolution, where people were not, it was the United Kingdom. Ireland was not part of the United Kingdom at the time. But when the Industrial Revolution technically goes a little bit on the importance of the Industrial Revolution. Britain became an imperial power, big power. They were importing and exporting a lot. Canals were built. This is such a big question. Canals were built from the towns and fabrics in the middle. People were going to the towns. And the importance. What is the answer about? What is the importance of something? That means what consequences does it have? And we're changing the position and we're going again in front. So when we're talking about how important was it? It was very important. It helped Britain to become a global power. That is the whole chapter. Because they were importing and exporting so much. And they were the first country to do industrialization in the large scale. Many people got into the towns and cities. They got very wealthy. Therefore, more people could vote. I think we understand it and not really we can. If you answer that questions that big, it's way too much. But I'm kind of searching, can I find out how to answer the question more or less in one sentence? The importance of Industrial Revolution and development of industry. The industry developed because the steam engine was developed. It was Arkwright improved the carding machine to make textiles faster. Or cloth, or what was it? What is the difference? It's another problem. Spinning into yarn and fabric. I think in a way I answered it. I'm right now not able to answer it in one question in one sentence. But we will try for the following 2 minutes. We're going into the butterfly stretch. We're having the soles of the feet together. We're straight up and we're going a bit in front. Let's just go over what we have. We're having a little over a minute. So we started with. That was not the Industrial Revolution. Here did we start basically with the Enlightenment. So, and the basic ideas of the Enlightenment are, we have that clear, the political people have a right to their own political and religious belief, and that the state should not dictate to them. Now the industrialization. So most people were farmers, and many people were working in cottage industries producing cloth and lace. It happened first the industrialization in Britain before the other European countries and the other countries in the world. And it happened through the development of machinery and the use of steam power. Manufacturing of goods became much mechanized, and coal and raw materials were much used.
and more and more people left the countryside to work in mining and manufacturing industries and the fabrics in town. The development of a Bessemer process for the mass production of steel led to the development of shipbuilding industry and railway. But it was necessary to make the connection everywhere. Richard Arkwright improved the carding process to make cloth and lace. Working conditions, that's not part of it. Britain traded all over the world. So, I don't understand. We will continue there. I thank you very much, and until next time.